Every great creative work stands on the shoulders of giants. Welcome to RetroInspection, where we examine and find out where the things we love today came from.
So, Nick, we're going to talk today about A Princess of Mars by
Yep.
Edgar Rice Burroughs.
Mm-hmm.
What do you know about Edgar Rice Burroughs?
You want to get the bad stuff out of the way first?
No, let's
Yeah,
let's
let's
do
do
the
the
good stuff.
we'll do
Let's
the
have
regular.
the sugar first.
Let's let them have some. You see, let them have some candy before their meal. Born in Chicago, died in Encino. Mainly lived, however, in the Tarzana area of the Los Angeles.
And what's Tarzana?
It is named for Tarzan. Well, it's a neighborhood. I believe it has incorporated, or at least they have. At some point, they got a post office, so it is like it's a recognized area. It grew out of basically people living around the gigantic ranch that Burroughs built there with his book money from his various series.
You know, I have been to Tarzana about 3,000 times, and
You
it
just
never crossed my mind that was what it was. I
do
had
you
no idea that Rice
have
Burroughs lived
an
there. I had no idea.
Well, to be fair, why would you? But I figured you would have made a connection with the name.
Well, I thought it was strange,
Okay.
but I never took the A off of the end and figured, hey, Tarzan. Yeah. So that was very clever of him. But I
Yeah.
guess he spent much of his life after reaching a certain amount of fame in Encino, the Encino area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was. Although he is buried in Tarzana. So it's your usual kind of writer's life. At some point, he had worked in mining. He had been in the military, though he did fail out of West Point. He was stationed out in Arizona, however, which will become relevant. He also had been a cowboy at one point. He had worked on a railroad, and as a your pencil sharpener salesman is what he was at the time he started to write fiction.
Right. I think he was working for his brother-in-law, right, or something like that.
This I don't know.
At like a paper mill or a paper factory or paper sales or something like that.
His brothers or who were his partners in the mining thing.
Oh,
so
okay, yeah.
a couple jobs back, and he had been
In Idaho, right?
Yeah, and he had been on the Oregon Short Line Railroad, which weirdly is in Utah. And he'd been on it, and then he gets out of that, and that's when he becomes a pencil sharpener wholesaler. It's amazing to think that there was a volume business at one time in pencil sharpeners.
Right.
On the wall of every room that we ever went to elementary school.
All the way up.
Yep. I don't know if they still have them. I have not been in a school because I made good choices and didn't have children.
No, Nick. No.
Just living an irresponsible life.
That's very now. Anyways.
That's why I have my hair in good credit.
Yeah, just talk to my brother. Anyways, he never sees this. So Burroughs' life reminds me very much of somebody else we talked about earlier in this entire, like the first person we talked about in this whole endeavor.
Yeah,
Harlan Ellison, who I'm not sure. I'm just trusting the veracity of both of these men, that they all did these things that became actually kind of a legendary. They gave them a legendary status. Oh, I was a lumberjack. I worked down the rail. I was a miner, right? I mean, these are all very, I I don't want to say the word, but I guess I will, kind of macho kinds of things, right? And it lends a little bit of credibility to them about what they end up writing later in their life. So
I mean, if you want to think that it was considered such at the time, or was it just considered the kind of job that one had in, say, 1902? You worked on a railroad outside of major urban centers. It was going to be some kind of a factory gig or an agricultural gig or something like this. It was going to be something, a form, semi-manual labor at least.
Yeah, and I look, I know we're going to go into some of the things that Edgar Rice Burroughs believed, but all of these writers are, everyone, all these people in history are products of their time. So, not only did they have to subsist in the ways that people could do in the time, but they had beliefs that are different than ours. So, so I guess while he was selling pencil sharpeners at a brisk pace,
yes,
he also wrote on the side, because I guess he was he had a lot of time on his hands. He had a couple children and a wife, but
where he starts reading pulp magazines, and as we've seen with Conan guy Robert Howard, as we saw, well, we haven't talked about him yet, but it's part of his legend too, like Howard Lovecraft, part of Raymond Chandler's legend. They all read this stuff in the pulp magazines, and they all look at it and go, I can do that, and I can do that better.
And you know what? For the most part, they're probably all right.
Yeah.
I don't want, listen, were they all talking about each other, or were they talking about lesser talent? I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's, and I was just about to say, it's hard to make that determination, because these days we only remember, for the most part, we remember the people that wrote well in the pulps. Those are the ones that really have persisted, into the modern day, and even to be, and even those now here 100+ years later are still only known to a relatively small number of people. And then there's guys,
hardly any people actually.
Yeah. And then you get guys like, I don't know, somebody like John Carroll Daly, who I think did not ever surpass, the pulps. Water found his level.
I think of somebody like the guy who wrote the Ballad of Whiskey Flats, or whatever that thing was. Do you remember that?
No.
I think I had to read that in an American literature book. It was a pulp Western story that was actually quite good.
From when?
Oh gosh, probably the turn of the century, the 19th century.
Was that like Bret Hart or somebody?
Yes, there's Bret Hart. That's
okay.
what it was.
Okay.
And during his day, he was quite popular and well known, and then the other writers kind of surpassed him, and that's just what happens. We remember the ones that kind of reshape history, and I think someone like Bret Hart, he lived in the moment and he wrote in the moment, and while it was very good and he had a lot of talent and could write well, you come across someone like Edgar Rice Burroughs, and he had all this idle time reading this stuff, and he could do it better, and he did, and he stumbled across these ideas, and the first one that I think he did was serialized in All Story magazine, was the book we're going to talk about, is Princess of Mars.
Like, subscribe, repost, share everywhere. To see what else we're up to, visit xynobooks.com, xenobooks.com.